At a family dinner, my dad raised his glass and said, "To the only child who never disappointed me." It wasn't me. 30 guests. $2,800 in catering. Every fork polished, every seat planned, except mine. I paid the bill in silence, then left before dessert. Next morning, I canceled the family trust transfer. No more quiet loyalty. But what they didn't know? Mom left me a flash drive before she died. And what was on it? It turned my blood to fire. I never wanted to be there that night. Not after 7 years of silence, fake apologies, and a funeral where no one said my name. But when my dad's assistant called, not my dad, his assistant, and said he wanted me at his 65th birthday dinner, something in me said, go. Not for him. Not for closure. For me. For the boy who kept waiting to be seen. For the man who built everything from the ashes they left him in. So I walked into that mansion like a stranger. Everyone turned their heads like they saw a ghost. My brother stood at the bar, wearing our father's watch. His wife gave me that tight smile, the kind that says, "You're not welcome, but I'll be civil for the photos." My father? He barely looked up. Just said, "You clean up well." Not hi. Not "I missed you." Not "Sorry I missed your wedding." Just that. I sat at the far end of the long oak table. Same chair I sat in at 17. Same feeling, like I didn't belong. Crystal glasses. Gold-rimmed plates. A staff of 6 in black suits floating around us like shadows. The kind of dinner where every laugh is rehearsed, and the air smells more like power than food. Then, the moment came. Dad stood up, raised his glass. The room went quiet. He cleared his throat and looked down the table, past cousins, business partners, in-laws, and locked eyes with my brother. To the only child who never disappointed me. Everyone clapped. I didn't. I stared into my wine glass like I could disappear into it. The room spun. Someone said, "Cheers." My brother smirked. And in that exact moment, I didn't feel hurt. I didn't feel shocked. I felt awake. Because now I knew. They weren't just forgetting me. They were rewriting the whole story. And I wasn't going to let them. You want to know how we got here? Why a father would erase his own son in front of 50 people and a $3,000 bottle of wine. I'll tell you. But you won't like it. Because this story, it's not just about betrayal. It's about what happens when the black sheep grows fangs. You see, once upon a time, I believed being the good son would be enough. That if I worked harder, stayed humble, followed the rules, I'd earn my place. But in this family, love isn't earned. It's purchased. And the price? Your silence. Your spine. Your soul. I paid for years. But now I'm done. So let's start at the beginning. The first time I realized I was disposable. The first time they taught me that loyalty only flows one way. I was 12 when I saw it. My science fair project had just one district. Weeks of work. Sleepless nights. I walked into the kitchen holding my trophy, beaming. Dad looked up from his laptop and said, "Have you seen your brother's baseball stats?" And just like that, I disappeared. That's the thing with my father. He only clapped when my brother swung a bat. Never when I built something. And God, did I build. Apps, code, machines. By 22, I had pitched a product that could change how small businesses handled logistics. Dad took one look at it and said, "Let's make it part of the family company." And like an idiot, I said yes. I handed over control, signed the papers, trusted them. But you'll see soon. In this family, trust is just the first move in the game. The part where you don't realize you're already losing. So when Dad raised that glass tonight and toasted the golden sun, the one who smiled as he gutted me from the inside out, it wasn't just an insult. It was the final nail. The final proof that they never saw me, never loved me, never meant for me to stand beside them. But here's the part they didn't see coming. I'm not here to be seen anymore. I'm here to be remembered. And after tonight, they will never forget me again. You ever grow up thinking you're the favorite, only to realize you were just the most useful? My whole childhood was a setup. I didn't come from a family. I came from a corporation disguised as one. Love wasn't unconditional. It was performance-based, results-driven, rewarded only when it benefited the family name. They called me the smart one. I got straight A's, built robots from cereal boxes, taught myself Java at 13. You'd think that would earn you pride, maybe even a hug. But in my house, it earned me pressure, more expectation, more what's next. Never well done. My younger brother, Brent, was the opposite. Lazy, impulsive, charming in a snake oil kind of way. He could crash a car into a mailbox and Dad would say, "Boys will be boys." I failed a quiz once and Dad grounded me for a month. You'd think I'd grow bitter. But I didn't. Not back then. I still thought the system was fair. That one day I'd prove myself enough. And Dad would finally see me. So I worked harder. Late nights, skipped parties, missed out on things that made other kids feel alive. Because I believed, deep in my bones, that success would earn me love. It never did. When I was 22, I built a logistics platform in my dorm room. Simple, elegant, scalable. I called it Pulse Path. Pitched it to a few VCs. One of them offered $1.5 million in seed funding. I was ecstatic, ready to go all in. But then Dad called. Why bring in strangers? He said. Bring it under the family umbrella. We'll protect it. He dangled the family brand, the network, the legal team. You'll keep 49%. Brent gets 2% just for optics. But don't worry, he won't be involved. And like a fool, I said yes. Because I still wanted to be wanted. Still craved his approval like oxygen. What I didn't know was, that was the moment I handed my baby over to the wolves. The first few months were good. Sales climbed. Small businesses were saving time, money. Tech blogs called me the quiet disruptor. But then, things started to shift. Emails stopped CCing me. Meetings got rescheduled, without notice. Legal started revising contract language. Brent started calling himself co-founder at events. I laughed it off. Until the day I showed up to the office. And my keycard didn't work. I called security. They said my access had been revoked. Revoked from my own company. Brent met me at the front door, grinning like he just got promoted. Hey man, he said. Dad wants to handle this privately. Let's talk in the boardroom. They sat me down. Dad, Brent, two lawyers I'd never seen before. They pushed a folder across the table. Compliance issues, they said. Conflict of interest. Failure to disclose a consulting payment from a vendor. It was all fiction. Fabricated invoices. Falsified emails. Someone had built an entire paper trail. And I knew exactly who. Dad didn't even look at me. Just said, we're going to have to move on without you. It's what's best for the company. I wanted to scream. Wanted to flip that table and burn every fake sheet of paper in that folder. But all I did was stand up and walk out. Not because I was weak. Because I knew something they didn't. They hadn't broken me. They just set me free. I moved across the country that month. Cut ties. Built a new life from scratch. Different name on the company. New number. No family. And still, not a word from any of them. Not even when Mom died. Not a call. Not an obituary with my name. Just silence. Until last week, when my dad's assistant called, out of nowhere. Asked if I'd honor the family by showing up for Dad's birthday. And now I get it. This wasn't about reunion. This wasn't about forgiveness. This was performance. Optics. Make the prodigal son show up for pictures. Then sit him in the back like a prop. I should have walked away. But I didn't. Because now I had something they didn't know about. Something that would change everything. And it all started with a shoebox full of letters. A week before that dinner, I got a call from someone I hadn't spoken to in years. Mrs. Franklin. My mom's old friend. Her voice cracked when she said my name. Your mother left something for you. She told me to give it to you if things ever felt unfinished. Felt unfinished. Yeah, Mom always had a way with understatement. She gave me a shoebox wrapped in linen. Inside, letters. Stacked neatly. Tied with gold ribbon. Each one handwritten. Each one dated. Dozens of them. From the last 3 years of her life. The first line in the first letter hit me like a freight train. I know what they did to you. I tried to stop it. I dropped the letter. My hands were shaking. The walls felt closer. I sat on the floor, right there in my office, and read every single one. She knew. She saw. She wasn't blind like I thought. Just trapped. Afraid. Kept quiet so they wouldn't cut her off, too. Letter after letter. She told me about Brent. How he'd been manipulating Dad for years. Forging documents. Creating little crises just to be the hero fixing them. Classic narcissist chess. But the worst part? He started with me. Way before Pulse Path. Way before the company. High school. Senior year. I got rejected from MIT. Never made sense. I had the grades. The test scores. Letters of rec from people at NASA. I remember sitting on my bed, reading that rejection letter. Feeling like a hole opened in the floor beneath me. Mom's letter said, Brent hacked your email and sent a withdrawal notice. He wanted to make sure you stayed local, so you'd keep doing his homework, helping him pass. I stopped breathing. MIT wasn't a rejection. It was sabotage, and it didn't stop there. Junior year of college, I fell in love. Emma. Bright, sarcastic, wild in the best way. We talked about moving in together, starting something real. Then one day, she ghosted me. Blocked my number. Gone. I thought she just changed her mind. But Mom's letter said, Brent paid someone to fake messages from your phone. He told her you were sleeping with 2 other women. She showed me the screenshots. You never had a chance to explain. He didn't just steal my company. He rewrote my life. One lie at a time. And Dad, he chose not to see it. Because it was easier to believe the golden child could do no wrong. And the quiet one must be hiding something. You know what it feels like? To realize your whole life's been edited by someone else? That the biggest failures you blamed yourself for weren't even yours? Just scripted betrayals in someone else's performance? I sat there, in a room full of letters and grief, and felt something snap. I wasn't angry anymore. Anger was a luxury. What I felt was colder, cleaner, a kind of clarity that makes your hands steady, while the world burns around you. And in that moment, I made a decision. I wouldn't confront them. I wouldn't beg for truth or closure. I would do what they never saw coming. I would win. I'd take back everything they stole. Not just the company. Not just my reputation. My name. My story. My place at the table they tried to erase me from. But not with a speech. Not with emotion. With strategy. Cold. Sharp. Calculated. The way they trained me. And never expected I'd use it against them. I picked up my phone. Called a lawyer I once helped during his company's darkest hour. He owed me. And I was cashing in. We met the next day. And that's when I found out something that would change everything. Pulse Path, my invention, was about to be acquired. A silent deal. $100 million valuation. Papers almost signed. And Brent? He'd rewritten history. On every document. Claimed he built the software. That I was just a troubled early employee who couldn't handle pressure. But I had something he didn't. Original code. Timestamps. Chat logs. Design files. Proof. And I wasn't going to stop at exposing him. I was going to bury him. Because this wasn't just business anymore. This was war. And the best part of war? You don't need your enemy's permission to win. Revenge is loud in the movies. Guns. Yelling. Explosions. But real revenge, real power, is quiet. A locked door. A late-night email. A signature forged years ago, finally unearthed. By the time they realize what you've done, you're already holding the match. And the floor beneath them is soaked in gasoline. I started with the acquisition deal. The $100 million payoff Brent was waiting on. The one that would have made him untouchable in my father's eyes. I didn't go to the buyers. I went to the board. Found out one of the investors, Westport Equity, was still contractually tied to my early IP. Because when I was 23, I took a small $20,000 grant from them. Brent and Dad thought it expired. It didn't. I showed Westport my receipts. Early builds. Voice memos. Even a notebook with Mom's handwriting on the cover. She'd written, "Don't forget your worth." Inside, sketches of Pulse Path, dated and signed. I watched the VP of Westport's legal department go silent after 10 minutes of reviewing it. Then he looked up and said, "We're going to need to pause the acquisition." Pause. Code for pull the plug, bury the contract, and call in the forensic lawyers. Brent didn't find out until 48 hours later. By then, the media was sniffing around. Tech forums started whispering. Who really founded Pulse Path? Where's the original coder? I was no longer a ghost. I was a shadow walking beside him in every boardroom. But I wasn't done. I bought the domain to his personal site. He forgot to renew it. Classic. I turned it into a quiet landing page. Black screen. White text. You stole from the wrong brother. I knew he saw it. He tried to play it off. But the next day, he filed for a cease and desist, which meant he knew I had teeth. And then came the nuclear part. Remember Emma? The girl he sabotaged in college? I found her. She was working at a startup in Austin now. Married. A little boy. I sent one message. You deserve the truth. I never cheated. I have proof your texts were faked. She called me, crying. Said she always wondered why it felt off. How she regretted never asking. She forwarded me screenshots of Brent, years ago, bragging about cleaning up the brother problem. She had the receipts. And she gave them to me. That's when the real fun started. I packaged everything. The fake messages. The code ownership. The board manipulation. And sent it in a single encrypted file to one person. My father. No message. No subject line. Just the file. Then I turned off my phone. A day later. The night of the dinner. He still hadn't said a word. No email. No reply. But I saw it in his eyes across the table. He knew. And he was still choosing silence. Choosing Brent. That was the moment I realized. My revenge wasn't about exposing them. It was about finally walking away with nothing left to prove. And everything left to build. But as I sat there, listening to forks scrape china, Brent leaned in and whispered, "You think you scared me with your little hacker stunt? Dad's going to clean it up, like always. You'll still be nothing." I turned to him, smiled, and whispered back, "You're already bleeding. You just haven't noticed it's your own name that's leaking out." That's when the waiter walked up and handed me a small white envelope. No name, just wax sealed. I opened it. Inside, a note in Dad's handwriting. "You've made your point. Come to the study after dinner." Alone. For a moment, I didn't know if that meant a handshake or a final threat. But either way, it didn't matter. Because win or lose, I'd become something they could never control again. Not the sun, not the shadow, not the failure, the storm. The study door was already open. Same one I used to get yelled at behind. Same one I stood outside of at 15, listening to Dad call me too soft. Same one I never thought I'd walk into again, on my own terms. He was sitting in the same leather chair. The decanter of whiskey between us glowed like it had something to confess. He didn't say hello. Didn't ask how I'd been. Just motioned to the seat across from him like this was a meeting, not a reckoning. I sat, but I didn't lean back. I stayed straight, alert, like I was still under attack. Then he spoke. His voice didn't shake. "You want me to say I was wrong?" I stayed silent. "You think you've got leverage now? That the letters, the IP, the sabotage, will undo what's been built?" Again, I said nothing. Because it was better to let him talk. People like him always reveal more when they think they're still in control. Then he leaned forward. For the first time, he actually looked at me. "Brent is weak. Always has been." I knew he was behind those stunts. The girl, the emails, the MIT withdrawal. I felt my heartbeat slip sideways. He knew, but he needed it. He needed that edge. He couldn't be you. I blinked. Not because of the words, but because of how coldly he said them. Like choosing to wreck my life was a business decision. You were too perfect, too easy to believe in. And belief makes people lazy. They stop trying. I swallowed something bitter. Pride? Grief? I couldn't tell anymore. You had the discipline, the vision. But Brent, he had the instinct to survive. Even if it meant destroying blood. I leaned forward then. Finally ready to speak. "So you let him destroy me? You watched it happen and stayed quiet." He shrugged. "You survived anyway." My hands curled into fists. "No thanks to you." He nodded. Not apologetically. Strategically. "Look where it got you. Fire only tempers the steel that can take it." I stood up. Because I couldn't sit there a second longer. But before I turned to walk out, he said one more thing. "This isn't about family, son. It's about legacy." I turned back. My voice low. "You think this legacy is built on loyalty? It's built on fraud. And I'm the only one who knows where the cracks are." He smiled. Actually smiled. "So fix it. Take it from him. Lead it. If you want it so bad, it's yours now." I didn't understand. "What are you saying?" He stood, walked to the desk, opened a drawer, took out a folder, tossed it on the table. Inside, a signed transfer of full voting shares, a letter of resignation, power of attorney. My name, not Brent's, was listed on every document. "He's in too deep. You're the only one who can keep it from collapsing." I shook my head. I wasn't sure whether to laugh or scream. "You're giving it all to me now? After everything?" He poured himself another drink. "You always were the one who could handle it. I just needed you to want it badly enough." I took the folder, not out of gratitude, but because I needed to see it, to feel how real it was. But just as I turned to leave, he said something that stopped me cold. "Your mother didn't die from illness." I turned around. Slowly. "What?" He didn't blink. "She overdosed. Sleeping pills." I kept it quiet. Said it was natural causes. I didn't want the scandal. My whole body went numb. "She left you the letters because she couldn't save you. And because she knew I wouldn't try." The silence that followed felt like a black hole. Not empty, just endless. "She said you were the only good thing she ever did. And she knew one day you'd burn the whole house down if we locked you out long enough." I don't remember walking out of that room. Just remember the cold air outside hitting my face. Like a slap from the universe. And as I stood on the porch, folder in hand, whiskey still burning in my throat, I made a choice. I wasn't going to take what he gave me. I was going to dismantle it, strip it down, sell it off, rebuild it, not in their image, but in mine. No more dinners. No more glass raising. No more proving anything. I wasn't the disappointment. I was the reset button, and they were finally going to feel what I felt. When I opened that first letter, forgotten, betrayed, alone, legacy, that's what he called it. What he handed me in a folder lined with ink and betrayal. But to me, it wasn't a legacy. It was a prison wrapped in gold leaf. A crown built on bones. I didn't want to wear it. I wanted to crush it. I walked out of that house like a man walking away from a funeral. Not grieving, but finally done pretending the dead deserved mourning. And the next morning, I started my work. Step 1. Kill the narrative. For 15 years, Brent had controlled the story. The prodigy. The visionary. The heir. But all of it was smoke. And I was about to blow every window out. I met with a documentary producer I once helped escape a lawsuit. She owed me, and I was collecting. I gave her the files, the letters, the chat logs, the hacked screenshots, the forged signatures, even a voice memo of Brent screaming at an intern about owning my code. She called it the most cinematic betrayal she'd ever seen. Said it was like Succession met The Social Network. But darker, more personal. She fast-tracked it, called in favors, dropped a 12-minute teaser trailer online in 3 weeks. Title: Ghost Code, The Brother They Erased. In 48 hours, it had 2.6 million views. By day 3, it was trending on X, TikTok, Reddit, and YouTube. The comments flooded in. Wait, he wrote the original PulsePath engine. Brent is finished. How did this guy stay quiet so long? I didn't stay quiet. I was silenced. But now, the microphone was mine. And just as the noise reached fever pitch, I made the quietest move yet. I filed a lawsuit. Not just against Brent. Against the entire board. For willful erasure of IP, malicious misrepresentation, and fraud across state lines. The real power in business isn't noise. It's paper. Paper that proves. Paper that punishes. Paper that doesn't blink. I didn't ask for damages. I asked for control. Liquidation of Brent's shares. Complete IP reallocation to me. And a public correction across all platforms. Brent went silent. For a week. Then 2. Then the leak started. An ex-employee posted screenshots of Brent's threats. An old CTO confessed he was forced to downplay my contributions. Even the PR firm that had built Brent's image dropped him. And then, my favorite moment, the Forbes retraction. In light of new evidence, we can no longer confirm Brent Callahan as the sole creator of PulsePath. We are investigating the timeline of the project's origins. A full apology will follow. Boom. But I wasn't done. Because there was one more thing to fix. My mother's name. Dad made sure her death stayed hidden behind the veil of peaceful passing. But that wasn't the truth. The truth was darker. And truth, when you let it breathe, changes everything. I went to her lawyer, the same one who helped her draft the letters. I asked for her final message, the one she said should only be released when I was ready. He looked at me like he'd been holding a ghost in his briefcase for 5 years. Handed me a flash drive. No password. Just a folder named, If He Ever Fights Back. It had one thing in it. A video. She looked tired, but clear, and strong. So strong. If you're watching this, then you finally did it. You stopped letting them rewrite you. You were never the broken one. You were the threat. That's why they tried to silence you. I wanted to protect you. But in this family, protection was always mistaken for betrayal. She paused, then said the one thing that split my soul open like a fault line. I'm proud of you. Not because you fought back, but because you survived long enough to. I uploaded the video. No edits. No commentary. Just her. In her own words. Finally free. People cried. People raged. People shared it like it was scripture. And suddenly, this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about everyone who'd ever been shut out by the people who were supposed to love them. Everyone who'd been called a disappointment by broken men wearing crowns of control. I didn't take the empire. I exposed it. Burned the gold to show the rot. And when the fire finally settled, all that remained was me. Not the forgotten son. Not the shadow. Not the backup. The one who endured. The one who outlasted. The one who rose. And I still had one final card to play. The one Brent never saw coming. They wanted legacy. They got legend. They wanted silence. They got a storm. But before I shut the door on them for good, I gave them one last dinner. It wasn't Christmas. It wasn't Thanksgiving, but it was cold out, and I figured betrayal tasted better when served warm. The invites went out like poison postcards. Dinner, 8 p.m., my place. No ties. No lies. Everyone showed. Brent, Dad, 3 board members who were now under internal investigation. Even my uncle, the one who once called me the spare. The table was long, set with wine they couldn't afford without me. Plates engraved with a quote from my mother. You don't have to stay broken just because they're comfortable with your cracks. The look on Dad's face when he read that, worth more than any lawsuit. I didn't toast. I didn't thank them for coming. I sat down and said, eat. We talk after. They tried to keep it light. Talked about the weather, golf, AI stocks. Nobody mentioned the documentary. Nobody mentioned the court hearings. Nobody mentioned the fact that I now owned controlling shares. They acted like I hadn't just gutted their kingdom. But when dessert hit the table, blueberry tart, Mom's favorite, I stood up, lifted my glass, and I said, to the only child who never disappointed me. Then I looked straight at my reflection in the wine glass and drank. Brent flinched. Dad blinked. The table froze. And I began. You remember the lab I built in the garage at 17? The one you said was a waste of electricity. I pulled out a slim USB drive. This has the original pulse path code. Timestamped. With audio of Brent asking me how it worked. A pause. Dead quiet. You remember the $50,000 Dad invested in Brent's fake startup that disappeared overnight? Turns out, he funneled it through a shell company in the Caymans. Guess whose name is on the founding documents? I slid a printed copy down the table. Brent didn't touch it, just stared at the frosting on his fork like it might save him. And the university scandal? I didn't drop out. Brent submitted forged academic misconduct claims against me. Traced the IP through a VPN. But it slipped once. Routed through the corporate server. Dad finally broke. You think this wins you respect? Dragging your family through the mud. I leaned in. No, this wins me peace. Something none of you ever offered. I stood, walked over to a projector behind me. Clicked play. A 3-minute montage rolled. Screenshots, emails, video clips, voice recordings. And finally, my mother. Again. But this time, she wasn't whispering comfort. She was issuing a warning. If you're watching this, you've already seen what they did. Now ask yourself, do you still want to be part of it? Or do you want to build something better without them? I turned off the projector, turned to the table. This dinner isn't about revenge. It's about rebirth. I'm giving you one option: walk away, resign, disappear, or I keep going. I burn it down to the last pixel, and you spend the rest of your lives choking on court dates and subpoenas. Brent looked at Dad. Dad looked at the floor. The board members? Already sliding their phones out to text lawyers. I walked to the door. You've got 72 hours to clean out your desks. The guards won't stop you. After that, your badges deactivate. As I opened the door, Brent stood up, voice shaking. What makes you think this makes you better than us? I smiled. Not cold, not cruel, just done. Because I don't need anyone to lose for me to win. Then I walked out, left them with their wine, their guilt, and their inheritance of dust. Epilogue. I restructured everything. Turned the company into an open-source think tank. Employees now own shares. No nepotism. No smoke. No more sons fighting over a throne built on lies. And once a year, on the anniversary of that dinner, I visit Mom's grave. I bring 2 things: blueberries and silence. Because she already said everything I needed to hear. And because the best revenge is never becoming what they try to turn you into. If you've ever been the forgotten one at your own family's table, tell me in the comments. What would you have done if you found that flash drive?